welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 222 in year 5, and we are still continuing the solo series of the podcast, and we have a lot of news to talk about because, man, DCEU, oh my god, I said it, oh my god. Well, technically, DCEU is still a thing until Aquaman comes out in about a week and a half or whenever I feel like they keep removing the release date, or moving, not removing. Whenever that comes out. So the DCEU is still technically alive, but there's a lot of news coming out of the DCU, which is run by James Gunn, obviously. And we're going to talk about that. There's also some stuff going on with DC movies going to a free website that everybody will be able to watch, which I think is pretty cool. And then Zack Snyder is just never gonna let the Snyder-verse die because people don't let it die. You know, I'm curious about this interview that happened with Zack Snyder that we'll be talking about a little bit later. But let's go ahead and jump into just the first bit of news that I have highlighted here, and that is DC movies are going to the streaming service Tubi. Now, if you don't know what Tubi is, it is a free app. I don't know. I mean, actually, I think you can go to Tubi's website and watch movies straight from the browser as well. But I know about Tubi because a friend of mine released a, crime, oh my God, what is it called? Like true crime. There you go. I was going to say cold case. True crime documentary called The Dolly Madison Murders. And it is free on Tubi. So you can actually go watch it there. It is where I watched it. So, now the site that is Tubi is going to have DC movies, and this is going to be like future releases as well. I have not personally checked if the movies are currently on Tubi, but this was like some of the big news that came out this week. So people that don't, that can't afford Netflix, that can't afford HBO Max or even be able to afford to go to the movies will still be able to enjoy DC movies now because of Tubi. So I think this is pretty cool. I always prefer that there is an outlet for people to be able to get access to the stuff, even if it's not right away, right? Like, yes, I think if you pay, obviously we got to keep these industries alive. So of course we want to have movie theaters. Of course we want to have streaming services that are paying to get this kind of stuff. But I think eventually, especially if it's the older movies, I think give them to people that, are less fortunate or don't have the money to be able to spend on a Netflix or whatever, because let's be real, these streaming services are getting ridiculously priced now, and everybody's got to pay for like multiple different ones to get certain stuff. So it's nice when there are websites like Tubi. I do believe a lot of it is based off of ads. I have not checked. I'm trying to think if my friend's video had ads. It probably did. I just don't remember, but because I watched it earlier this year. But yeah, either way, DC movies, and this from the article and everything I read, I believe it said that DC movies, it's all like past and present and future releases, I believe. I don't think they said when they'll come out. I'm assuming everything would still go to HBO Max first, but I don't know. Either way, that is something you can be looking forward to if you are somebody that is subscribed to Tubi, or has Tubi, I should say, because I don't know if they have a subscription model. Maybe they do. I feel like everything that has ads has an option to where you don't have to have it. But either way, free DC movies coming to Tubi. So I think that is really awesome. So more people will be, let's be real. DC needs to build up its fan base some more to get people to the theaters, because right now it is not going well. But moving on to just the other, before I move on to the big news, because I feel like everything else kind of clumps together when it comes to a lot of the DCU news, is let's knock out this video game news, which is Kill the Justice League, which is the Suicide Squad game, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, is not going to have an offline story, y'all. This was really weird to me because, first of all, this is the same company that made Batman, the Arkham series, Arkham Origins, or not Arkham Origins. It made, Arkham Knight. It made, it made Arkham Asylum, and I'm forgetting the middle one, because Arkham Knight was the end, Arkham Asylum was the first one. I'm forgetting the middle game. Either way, Rocksteady Games is the one making Kill the Justice League. And I thought this was going to be a story-based game that you could play co-op. You know what I mean? You could go into co-op mode and play with your friends and do all that kind of stuff. Turns out it is going to be a game you need online for. So I think that's really weird because now you're going to be, there's got to be an option for me not to have to play with friends, right? There's got to be a way to do that. There's no way the game could not have that. That would be ridiculous because then you're just alienating a lot of people that don't want to play with other people. But I just think it's really weird that there's not going to be an offline story. I think it's such a bad way to approach things. Now, the gaming studio has said there will be that feature in the future, but I think it's just so bad. So, like, can you just not play it on launch if you don't have internet? Because I think that's such a bad business practice, in my opinion. But maybe since everybody has kind of moved to online games like Fortnite and all that stuff, maybe they kind of account for that. I don't really know. I just think that's really stupid when you are a company that has produced arguably some of the best story-based games, and then you are going to move to this like, oh, we got to do the online crap, which is, it makes sense. They have a battle pass. They're doing cosmetics, stuff like that. So, I mean, we should have maybe expected that. I just didn't know that. I just didn't think that it was going to be that terminally online where it was just going to be no offline mode at all. I thought that would at least be an option. But, you know, I stand here corrected because, yeah, I thought that's really stupid. That's all I can really say. And here's the thing, Rocksteady, if you're listening to this podcast somehow, the last trailer that came out that showed Nightmare Batman and stuff like that, I was pretty hyped. I was like, yo, I might buy this on launch day. I might buy this early because it has that Harley Quinn skin that I can get, which this really pisses me off. Again, Rocksteady, if you're listening. Dude, I want y'all to go look. I was totally on board. Sorry, I'm like fucking mincing all my words right now. I was going to buy that game early because it's going to let you play 3 days early. And I was like, oh, that'd be a good stream thing to do. Maybe I could play the game like, you know, a few days early for stream. That might be kind of cool. But then I actually looked at the Harley Quinn skin because the Harley Quinn skin, you can win me over with classic Harley. I love that outfit. But then I saw it. And if you look around her waistline, the costume has a belt buckle. And for whatever reason, these idiots, because again, like, there's no reason to have this. I think they put it there so you could make sense of how stuff attaches to her body. But there is a noticeable belt buckle, and I think they might have inverted the colors too, or it's just solid red, and it crosses over into the black. It looks fucking stupid. It looks so bad. And I'm like, how can you even put that in the like game? Like, this is such a classic costume, and they added something that didn't need to be there. Here's the workaround. If you were so worried about having a belt buckle there, now I know a lot of people are probably going to say like, oh, it's a skin, like they have to keep certain aspects of the characters for the thing to work or whatever. Dude, Apex Legends and Fortnite and all these other games 100% change skins to look like the characters and way better. There's no excuse for this. Like, there's no excuse for this stupid little weird looking belt buckle to be on Harley Quinn. And you want to know the workaround for this? Is you just put a belt, like an actual like gun holster, over the original Harley Quinn skin. Because if you were to make that belt loop or belt, freaking holster black and red, it goes with the ensemble. And there you go. You don't need to put this stupid looking belt buckle. And just seeing that, genuinely, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna buy it early. It pissed me off so much because that is like my favorite costume, and they added the stupidest thing to it. And and then now there's no offline mode. I think I have to wait for the reviews of this game to buy it. I did that with Gotham Knights because Gotham Knights wasn't looking too great, and I didn't want to pre-order that. And although I have a lot more faith in, Rocksteady, I am still going to wait. I think I'm going to wait for the reviews to come out. The reviews will still most likely be out a week or two before the game. So if I still want to pre-order it, like if this thing knocks out of the park and it's like, an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, I might be like, okay, that those ratings warrant me buying this game early. But if we're talking about like 6 or 7, ooh, I don't know, man. 6 is bad. Like if you're getting down to the 5 or 6 area too, like that's just a mediocre game. So we'll see what happens. But I think that game is constantly taking L's. But I will say the last trailer made me really interested. And then this offline stuff, I'm just like, no, I don't know. They win me, then they lose me, then they win me, then they lose me. That's just kind of how it's been going. But we'll have to see. I'm waiting for the reviews at this point. Moving on to the next bit of stuff we have to talk about. This is all DCU related. And man, this all came out over the last week since the last podcast. So, I don't know why I felt like we talked about this. I think it's just, my brain is trying to piece together a bunch of things. But Nicholas Hoult has been confirmed as Lex Luthor. This was a rumor we definitely talked about on the podcast before, but it is confirmed that he is going to be playing Lex Luthor. And this actually comes from James Gunn himself, with saying, I think this was on Threads, he says, yes, I can finally answer. Nicholas Hoult is Lex Luthor in Superman Legacy, and I couldn't be happier. We went out to dinner last night to celebrate and discuss how we can create a Lex that will be different from anything you've seen before and will never forget. But James, we heard this weeks ago. Why didn't you tell us it was true? Because, although we are discussing it, it wasn't final until a couple of days ago. I don't want to tell you something that isn't certain. So, that is going to be kind of the theme for today, because there is going to be a few other things we're going to be talking about. That James Gunn is sitting here reiterating, if you don't hear it from him, it's not fucking true. At least not yet. So I like that he has come out and said that, because first, before I move on, Nicholas Hoult, I think, will be interesting. I can't say that I've seen him in too many movies to where I'm like, oh, he has the range to do it. I believe he didn't say it in that particular thing, but I believe it's been confirmed that he is going to be bald Lex, so it's not like he is going to have hair or anything like that, which I think Lex should always be bald. I think he just works better that way. But with Nicholas Hoult missing out on so many superhero, roles, I think he's got a lot of anger pent up, so I think he'll be a good villain, And I'm curious to see where they're going to go with the character. I wonder if Lex is going to be one of those characters that we see throughout the DCU. You would think James Gunn, being the nerd that he is, we're probably going to get the Legion of Doom at some point. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Nicholas Hoult, we might see him way more than just in Superman. And I think that's going to be kind of cool. But moving on from that, I'm recording this early in the morning, so apologize with me fluffing all over myself. Kurt Russell, I don't know if you guys heard this. Everybody thinks that Kurt Russell was going to automatically be Jor-El in the DCU because he's worked with James Gunn before. He looks like him, depending on what stories you've read. And James Gunn said no, that is not being considered right now. That is not the plan. And he said that if let me bring it up real quick to make sure I get his correct words. James Gunn says that the rumor mill has been insane and profoundly misinformed lately. He also says Kurt Russell as Jor-El was never discussed. Don't trust anything that doesn't come from me. So there you go, reiterating that stop believing all these damn rumors. So it doesn't matter what scooper you're following that has a great track record or that you think hits more than misses. If it doesn't come from James Gunn, it's not true. So we've been talking about that on the podcast a bunch of times. I'm glad he still kind of comes out and corrects some of these stuffs. But if we're being fair, or if we're being factual, I guess, James Gunn also a while back did say that he's not going to respond to every rumor he hears now because, well, it kind of gives stuff away and people piece things together and yada yada. So, it's nice that he is still responding to some to clear up some things, but it doesn't mean it's going to keep people from out here, trying to just throw out bullshit stuff to get views and whatnot. Let's be real. Elon Musk, with the whole Twitter being able to make money and stuff now, which is good for shit posters out there that do bring in a lot of views and stuff like that. Everybody is just trying to throw stuff out there to get views and because they want to make money. I mean, play the system, right? And so that's why you're probably seeing a lot of bullshit scoops and rolls, and oh yeah, this person got cast for this and yada yada. What also doesn't help is a lot of scoopers also like to troll, and so there's a lot of people out there that don't understand what trolling is, or I don't know. I think some of these scoopers should have their own personal accounts and then their scooper account, because the scooping account should never have any jokes on it. It shouldn't have a personality on it. It should just be straight scoops. And if you want to like joke around and stuff like that, do that on a different profile. But I do think when it comes to some scoopers, there's a little bit of maybe ego there. They want to be the main guy, the guy that talks, and they want their personality to shine through their profile. When I think it comes to, I'm doing quotations here, journalism, you don't need personality too much in journalism. You just need facts, especially with today. I think everybody's trying to be the personality. It's like, yo, we need more facts than personalities nowadays. We got too many of those. So yeah, I don't know, but I think it's unfortunate because I have seen some scoopers throw out just random stuff to joke around, and I think some people start running with it, and it's just causing mass confusion, and I wish that would stop. But you guys know me, I'm very anti-scooper nowadays. So yeah, if it doesn't come from James Gunn, don't believe it. Now, this one, I have not seen come from James Gunn, but a lot of people are reporting on it, and it is that James Gunn's brother, Sean Gunn, has been cast as Maxwell Lord. And this was the first casting that everybody was like, huh? Because a lot of people don't think it's a good casting. And the weird thing is this would be Sean Gunn's third casting in the DCU. Now, technically, it would be the DCEU that he's been cast in, because in Suicide Squad, he did play Calendar Man, and he also played Weasel. And now, granted, Weasel, you're not seeing Sean Gunn. He's just doing the mocap stuff for it. And Calendar Man was just really a cameo. And so I feel like Maxwell Lord is going to be Sean Gunn's only character that he plays, unless they bring back Weasel, which actually they are bringing back Weasel technically in Creature Commandos, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe he'll just do the mocap stuff for that. I don't think Weasel talks, so it's gonna be kind of like maybe like a Groot situation where Sean Gunn is just doing the the grunts and growls. But I think his actual character is going to be Maxwell Lord, if this is true. Again, I haven't seen this from James Gunn, so there's no there's no confirmation of this officially. But it didn't keep Zachary Levi from talking about it, because somebody asked Zachary Levi how he felt about Sean Gunn getting cast as Maxwell Lord. And I'm not gonna lie, the headlines kind of did Levi dirty here, because it made it seem like an asshole with the way they if you just read it plainly, it's like, it says yeah, well, I guess when you're the brother of James Gunn or the head of DC, you can get whatever role you want. Something along those lines. If you watch the full context of the video, he's being asked by somebody, what do you think about, Sean Gunn being Maxwell Lord? And he's like, is that confirmed? I don't know if that's confirmed. And he was like, yeah, this is his third role or whatever, because he's already been Calendar Man and Weasel. And, Levi was saying, he was like, well, those aren't really technically, those are more cameo-based things. I don't think those are officially big roles for him. And then he kind of just threw out the line of I guess when you are the brother, yada yada. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Levi has said that he is friends with James Gunn. So it is very possible that he's just relationships when it comes to friends are very different. He's saying that probably means nothing to Sean Gunn and James Gunn if they are pals. You know what I mean? And that's just a nice little jab. But of course the internet's oh man, look at him, he's so salty. And I will be the first to admit that when I read the text, I posted in the Discord, I was like, damn, Levi's salty. But after I saw the actual video, I went back and deleted that from Discord. And I was like, oh, I guess I got duped. And that's why it's always important to try to find sources, kids. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I guess some people could still take it as he's being salty, but his tone didn't really give that off when he said it that way. So, and there's also like this big, granted, there might be some merit to, not liking Zachary, but there's a lot of people online that do look for anything to hate on him. And I think there are justifications for things. I don't like the way he talks about the movie sometimes. And I don't know. I think he could have had a better attitude when Shazam was coming out. But yeah, I mean, that's just a whole different conversation. But anyways, Sean Gunn as Maxwell Lord. I will agree with the overall sentiment. I don't think it's a great casting. Maybe Sean Gunn is going to start like pigging out and putting on some weight and he's going to get muscular. Then he might look different. I don't know. As far as we've always seen Sean Gunn, he's been a skinny, lanky guy and a lanky guy. And, I think every time I've seen Maxwell Lord, kind of seems like a dude that, I don't know. It depends on what Maxwell Lord they're going with, I guess. And so are they going with supervillain Maxwell Lord? Are they going with different versions of him? Because Pedro Pascal played a very different version, and Pedro Pascal's not like a super buff dude either, but he also looked very, very different in Wonder Woman 2. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that is the first casting that has come out that I was just like, yeah, I don't really like that one. I feel like Maxwell Lord could have been played by like, especially with the way he looks now, like a Zac Efron, you know what I mean? Like, he's got the build for it, he's got like this jawline. Yeah, I think like somebody like that could have played a good Maxwell Lord, although I don't know how tall Zac Efron is. I don't know if he's a shorter dude or not, but either way, I think there's plenty of different people that could have played Maxwell Lord before Sean Gunn, but we'll see. We don't know what James Gunn's going to do. We don't know what iteration of Maxwell Lord this is going to get. He could be the Maxwell Lord that Wonder Woman snaps his neck. So, at that point, maybe you don't need a crazy Maxwell Lord if he's just going to die. And I think, let's see what else we got. We have one more casting news that came out for Superman Legacy. And this is Miriam, I believe is how you say her name. Miriam Shore has been cast as the head of the CIA. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back and look. I feel like Clay posted this in the Discord. Okay, and I don't think this is correct. If not, the casting is bad. He said Tom King's CIA agent lady has been cast in Superman. And I think he might be mistaken, because all I've heard is that the CIA agent has been cast, the head of the CIA has been cast in Superman Legacy. It didn't say the name of Tom King's character. It didn't say the name of the character at all. It just said cast as the head of the CIA. So I don't think Clay is technically correct there, unless he saw a different source. What I found, I checked different situations or different articles, and it just said head of the CIA. So, I mean, there's been plenty of head of the CIAs in DC before. And also, I believe Tom King's version is a Latina. So, I don't know if they would want to, like, change that up. You know what I mean? But we'll have to see. If this character comes out, has the same name, and cusses up a storm, then yeah, that's Tom King's version. But I did not see anywhere around that to confirm Clay's statement. So there's that part. And I believe that is all the DC, like the DCU castings that I have here. So a bunch of that's going on. But that doesn't mean that we are done with any of that, because still in the DCU, this is something else. And this comes from a scooper, so grain of salt. According to Daniel RPK, Supergirl will appear in Superman Legacy, and they are currently casting the character. Sasha Calle will not portray Supergirl in the DCU. So this kind of sucks for anybody that was, interested in Sasha Calle continuing the role as Supergirl. I think, again, this is going with Gunn's idea of just recasting everybody, essentially. I hope we don't get a recast of Harley Quinn. It does look like we're going to keep Peacemaker around, so we'll see how that goes. But for the most part, it does look like the big heroes and stuff like that, everybody's being recast, and so that means we will get a new Supergirl. And I'm curious on who they're gonna pick for this. I don't know what James Gunn thinks. I know James Gunn is not somebody that's like, we need to have a white character play this white character. I know he's not that kind of guy. But I'm curious if he did want to recast Supergirl just to be like, oh yeah, let's not add the questions of like, oh, she's related to Superman, but they don't look the same. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Because Sasha Kaya was a Latina, so we'll see where it goes from here. I don't really think any of that really matters, but I mean, it's always something you can consider, right? Either way, Supergirl is supposed to be in Superman, which, here's the thing. This is going to be very intriguing, right? Because apparently, we are going to be getting a Superman from what we've heard about the movie. It is going to be a Superman that is introduced to the rest of the world that already has superheroes. So does he already know Supergirl? Or has Supergirl always been around and Kal-El has just been hiding? Or what's the case? That's what I'm going to be curious about. Because, yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how they're going to explain that Superman is just now being introduced to a super world. You know what I mean? Like a world of superheroes. And how does Supergirl play into that? Was she also just being introduced, or has she always been around? It'll be interesting to see how James Gunn is going to play with all of that. But moving on from that to another thing James Gunn has said, and this one's interesting because I was all like, yo, what? James Gunn says that cameo porn is one of the worst elements in recent superhero movies, shoehorning characters in mangles the story. So essentially, this was saying that like James Gunn doesn't. I mean, it is what he is. But like, I just saw like cameo porn. I was like, what the fuck is cameo porn? And it was just the idea that, you know, a lot of Marvel movies will show a character just to be like, oh, they showed the character, and there's no really essence for that character in the movie. I think some people, unfortunately, are probably going to argue against this with James Gunn because he probably did that in the Guardians movies, didn't he? Because wasn't like Howard the Duck just a random cameo? He doesn't really play a part in the story. He's just there. So I know some people are going to be like, oh, James Gunn does this too. Blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. But I think going forward, I think James Gunn is trying to make sure that this isn't going to happen, which I think is a positive thing. Even if he's guilty of it, I think it is positive if you are going forward that every character that you see is going to be essential to the story in some way. Now, do I think basically the whole Justice League that he showed in his movie is going to be important to the story? No. I think that Justice League is probably going to be there fighting some heroes. They're going to be getting their ass beat, and Superman is going to come save the day. And maybe they're going to try to recruit him or deal with him or whatever. I think that's where they're going to play a part. So they'll have a part of the story. I don't think they're going to be like super like important though. You know what I mean? Not like a Lois Lane would be. I think the movie is still going to be about Superman and Lois, and the other characters will just be supporting cast. But their involvement will matter instead of being like, oh, look, hey, freaking Thanos is sitting in the back of the bar just drinking a beer. Like, you know what I mean? Which, those kind of cameos, yeah, those don't do anything, because that could be anybody. You know what I mean? So, we'll see how that goes. I did think that was very interesting that James Gunn has come out and said that, and that might be cool, meaning that every character we see in movies going forward, at least in DC, will matter. And I think that's very important. The last bit of news that we have is about Zack Snyder, everybody. And this is, oh man, okay, so this is from an interview. It's not like a clickbait article. It's not anything like that. I believe this comes from, it says, I can't even pronounce it, Cultura Cinco? OCIO, sorry. I'm trying to do this as I'm like just randomly recording. Anyways, this news outlet from, I think they were probably in Mexico or something like that, promoting the new Rebel Moon movie. It was a clip, and they were the interviewer was asking if Zack Snyder would ever go down to do his stuff again or work with DC or whatever. And during this interview, Zack Snyder is arguably tired, or I should say noticeably tired, not arguably, because he literally yawns like in the middle of his thing. He's like, yeah, I mean, I would definitely do, store stuff. And so he's just tired. He actually kind of looks tired too. Probably been on a press junket all day, worn out, these kind of things. And they ask him, what he says, he was like, if Netflix got the rights to my characters, to my Zack Snyder universe, then yeah, I would totally continue and do more with it. And so there you go. The Zack Snyder fans will live off of that for the next 10 years, and they will try to get DC to sell the rights to Netflix and yada yada. And I don't know. I'm not gonna lie at this point. I think it would be a bad move for DC, but it also does seem like DC is trying to make more money. So they're selling different things to other networks, like, the Christmas specials or whatever are going to Amazon. The new Batman animated series is going to Amazon. We're getting this stuff with Tubi. Like, there's going to be all of these different places you can see DC stuff. And I don't know, like, if you are creating an Elseworlds and you wanted to, like, make money from Netflix, like, I don't know how much money you could probably get from Netflix, but dude, if Netflix was going to back up the truck to just get the rights to the Snyder-verse, and, like, DC could be like, look, you can make 2 movies, and that is it. And like it has to be, we have to know what you're going to do. We have to be able to okay it, yada, yada. And then, Netflix foots the bill. Fuck it. Let them finish the series or whatever. You know what I mean? But I don't think that's going to happen. But at this point, if it would eventually get people to go back on DC's side, be like, look, we're going to let Zack do his thing over at Netflix. We hope that you come watch our stuff too, yada, yada. Then that would be cool, build up the relationship again. And at this point, it's just like kind of over it. You know what I mean? Do I think it's going to happen? No. But I also thought we were never going to get the Snyder Cut in the first place. So I can't sit here and say that it's impossible. But yeah, I did think that was something interesting. But, there is a part of me that I wish Zack Snyder would just be like, yo, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Like, I want to move on. Rebel Moon's my new thing. I don't care about continuing the Snyder-verse. Like, it had its moment, and I want to move on and do better things. I wish he would say that, but I also am somebody that has my own aspirations to create things, and maybe that's the thing he wanted. Maybe he wanted to ultimately make this universe of his own, yada yada. He's also already said that he'll make a true adaptation of The Dark Knight if James Gunn let him. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know if that true adaptation can be had with a certain budget. So we'll see what happens going forward. But I believe that is everything I have, and we are going to move on to viewer questions. Starting with the Discord, we have Raphael that says, do you miss Fanboy Clay? Well, I will say, especially for this week, I had to get all the stuff together myself, all the sources, get all the questions. Well, actually, y'all guys do the questions. But I had to get everything going. I had to do the tweet in Discord and all that kind of jazz. And, it does save me a little time when Clay does do it. So I do miss that. And obviously, on the podcast, it's a lot easier to just talk to somebody. I mean, you have time to catch your breath when they're talking. They provide different perspectives and stuff like that when it comes to these topics. So I do definitely miss the conversation, because I think any podcast is better with more than one person. I do think when people have like 5, 4, when those podcasts get a little out of hand, but that's because everybody wants to be the top guy. When you do those big podcasts, I've said this before, you need to know who the top guy is. You need to know who the leader is, and everybody else just kind of goes around that. You can't have 4 leaders. It just doesn't work. It's not the Judgment Day. You know what I mean? And everybody knows the leader of the Judgment Day is Rhea Ripley. So, anyways, so yeah, I miss that aspect of the podcast for sure. But I'm not going to lie to you guys, and I think anybody would agree with this. when you do things on your own, you work at your own pace, and you get to, you're not beholden to somebody else, right? And I will say, it's kind of nice to be able to record this podcast whenever I want. I mean, last week I recorded it at like 1 in the morning, and I freed up my Thursday. And I was like, hell yeah, I got all Thursday to work on stuff. Because usually, the way my schedule currently works is Thursday is blocked off for the podcast because I never really know when we're going to record the podcast. Before Clay moved, we had a good schedule of recording at like 10 and 11 a.m. And I think since he moved, we've only done one podcast, and that was later in the day. And yeah, so that was just like, I was like, I had to close off the whole day for that because you never really know when the podcast is going to happen. So there is one benefit, like anything, there's pros and cons to everything. But once everything gets settled down, I mean, the last time I talked to Clay, because it has been a few days, he was applying for a new job that was probably going to let us record in the mornings again, which would be nice because that was what we originally did, and it worked for my schedule. Because I do like to keep a tight-knit schedule. I mean, I have a lot going on, whether you may see it or not. Like I said, I have a job that I work on every single day, and then we have the new channel, which, by the way, shout out to everybody that's checked out the new channel. I had some people come over from the podcast and were like, I'm from the podcast. And so I appreciate y'all watching the content, and hopefully you enjoy it. But yeah, so yeah, there are definitely aspects I do miss. I just think any podcast is better with conversation. So I definitely miss that part of it for sure. Moving on to Arwitz. Who are your top 3 favorite villains of all time and your top 3 heroes of all time? So I'm going to knock out the heroes first because it's so easy. Batman, obviously. And then Wolverine and Gambit. Yep. It might be shocking since, we talk about so much Batman and I know so much more about DC than I do Marvel. But Gambit and Wolverine were always some of my favorite characters ever. I loved Gambit and Wolverine. They were awesome. I grew up on the cartoon, read some of the comics, thought they were amazing. And yeah, I mean, come on, like Gambit's hooking up with a Rogue. Like, let's go. Come on, bro. Come on. He just also looked cool. I thought, that 90s attire was really great. I've actually cosplayed as Gambit before, which is crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I definitely have to say those are my top 3: Batman, Wolverine, and Gambit. Probably in that order. I run a podcast that's about Batman. Obviously, he's going to be number 1. And Wolverine, I think, is just the opposite of Batman, and I think I like that too. You know what I mean? I just relate to Batman in ways of like how he doesn't give up and how he finds a way to do everything, and I think that's why I love the character so much. But Wolverine's just a badass. You know what I mean? He's the complete opposite of Batman at times, and I think I really enjoy that. I think that's cool too. I just like to be entertained. I like to see some crazy stuff, and Wolverine provides that. And Gambit is he's just cool, man. He's just cool. So I'll go with that. The 3 villains is a lot harder because, as we've said, and I've been on record of this, one, I don't really care about villain stories too much. I like seeing the villain go against the hero I like, and I get intrigued by how they approach fighting the hero or the situations they put him in. But, it's kind of hard to, like, unless you read, like, every story about a certain character. Sorry, I got the burps. It's hard to kind of pick. So, obviously, I'm going to say Joker is probably number 1. Very cliche, like, oh, typical pick. And then I don't include Catwoman and, like, Harley and stuff like that as villains anymore. So, I'm not going to say any of them. But if I was including Harley and Catwoman, they would probably be 2 and 3, to be honest, because I enjoy those characters a lot. But I'm trying to think of stories that I really enjoyed that involve villains and stuff like that. And I don't think I have a particular order for villains, because I kind of want to say like Venom or Carnage in the spot, because I really enjoy Venom and Carnage. I don't know which one I like better. I love the craziness of Carnage, like he's just a psychopath, but I also love like the awesomeness of Venom. So I don't know which one I would prefer. And I also consider them both villains. I like them as villains, not anti-heroes or whatever. And then maybe Clayface. I really do enjoy Clayface. I think he's underrated in my opinion. Although in the last few years, I think he's probably becoming properly rated. But I had always considered him underrated prior to even starting this podcast. So yeah, I would probably go with those. I don't, might be a cop out answer because I'm including Carnage and Venom. But since I don't keep up with the modern day Marvel stuff, I can't sit here and say like which one is better nowadays. I only remember them when I was reading the very little Marvel stuff that I did read and watching the cartoons and playing the games. So yeah, that's what I would go with for that. And then we got Charlie Bro that says best holiday theme comic. This is an easy answer for me, but it also might be like a little biased answer. The Long Halloween. The Long Halloween includes all the holidays. So, I mean, can you really beat and it's about Batman. So, can you really beat a story that covers all the holidays and not say it's the best? You know what I mean? But I think there are some good holiday ones out there. I mean, we're reading Silent Night right now in the comic book section when we review stuff with our Batman Silent Night, which is pretty cool. It involves Santa Claus. And yeah, I don't know. I do think that I'm trying to think of what other like Christmas. I mean, because here's the thing, Batcat was during Christmas too. But if you're talking about like the holiday actually played a part in the story, then I don't think you can beat Long Halloween. Long Halloween, the holidays actually mattered because that was when the next victim was going to be killed. And I think that was just such a fucking great story. So I'm going to go with Long Halloween. But if you guys have any better suggestions for comics that actually involve the holiday, put them in the comment section of the YouTube video. So moving over from Discord to the UB Tubes, we have Clay that says, what stupid casting would fans warm up to the most? Gordon Ramsay as John Constantine. Okay, I actually kind of like that. Ellis Jean as Black Canary. Don't know who that is. Kanye West as Jon Stewart. Wow. Marilyn Manson as Scarecrow. I could see it. Actually, I think I'd have Marilyn Manson as Mr. Bloom from Scott Snyder's run. Donald Trump as Penguin. Donald Trump has the body type for Penguin. I'll say that. But could he? I don't know. I mean, he probably waddles like him too, so he'd probably be the most accurate. I need to see who this Ellis Jean is because I don't know who this is. I put Ellis Bean. Let's see, Ellis, or is it Elisa Jean? Yo, whoa, is this a porn star that I'm looking at? All I see is her Instagram has a very suspicious photo. I'm assuming this is a porn star. Can't say that I know her from her content, but as who? As Black Canary? I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if. I mean, here's the thing. Dudes are very simple, and I think they warm up to anybody they find attractive. But is she a good actress? I don't know. I can't say that I'm aware of her content. So I can't sit here and say that people would warm up to that. I do think people, for the memes, and I think just over time, Gordon Ramsay as John Constantine is great. I think that would be fantastic. So I would say Gordon Ramsay. I mean, people already love him. So I think that would be hilarious. So we'll go with that one. Moving on to the next things. Eduardo de la Cruz. Batman got his back blown out by Bane, just like my ex-crush did. I was sad because I wasn't the first who would win. Beast Boy versus Kraven. Codpiece versus Big Wheel. Brainiac versus the Death Star. What did I just read, says Alexis Barrera. Beast Boy versus Kraven. I mean, Kraven, here's the thing. Kraven can go toe-to-toe with Spider-Man. I don't know if he necessarily would beat Spider-Man, but he can go toe-to-toe with him. And I feel like Beast Boy gets soloed by Spider-Man. So I feel like Kraven could beat Beast Boy. So I'm going to go Kraven there. Who the fuck is Codpiece and Big Wheel? Am I going to like look up something and be like, yo, what the fuck? Let me see. I don't know. Oh my god. Who is this? Holy shit. Is this a DC character? Okay. Codpiece, to describe this to you, he's essentially a character that's got a gun over his fucking junk. And it's a massive gun, ladies and gentlemen. Dude, that should I think the recoil of that alone would hurt. Like, oh my god. James Gunn needs to put this in a fucking thing. Okay, oh, he's in Doom Patrol. Okay, this must be the second or third season, because I have not seen that. That is fucking hilarious. So, Codpiece versus Big Wheel? Hold on, I don't need to know who Big Wheel is, because these are... Dude, I love when y'all bring up obscure characters. Okay, I've actually seen Big Wheel. If I'm not mistaken, Big Wheel, I think has fought... Oh, wait, this is a Marvel character. Okay, I am actually wrong here. So, I want to say that Big Wheel, there is a similar character to Big Wheel that went up against the Blackhawks. Because I want to say they used to fight some weird, like, machine-type soldiers and characters. And I want to say there is a character similar to Big Wheel in the DC universe. I just don't know what it's called. And it might just be a machine. I mean... Big Wheel looks like he actually has a machine that, I mean, well, obviously Codpiece also has a machine, if you know what I'm talking about. But I do think that when you got a thing that rolls like a vehicle, I mean, it all depends on Codpiece's fucking aim. You know what I mean? Does he got good aim? Is he an excellent marksman? Because then that changes the game. But just from the looks, I'm going to go Big Wheel. It just seems just like he'd put up more of a fight. Depending on how powerful Codpiece is, could possibly the Big Wheel might not even be damaged. Who knows? There's a lot to be desired there. You know what I mean? You don't know. Is he compensating? You know, is it all for show? We don't know. But anyways, and then Brainiac versus the Death Star, dude. Luke Skywalker destroyed the Death Star with a freaking X-Wing fighter. So Brainiac can like control anything that's electronic, if I'm not mistaken, and has captured planets before. So I'm going to go Brainiac easy. Moving on to that, we got Jason Todd. What member of the Batman can... Okay, I think he meant Bat Family. Bat Family can or cannot lift Thor's hammer. So I would think, I mean, obviously, I think the people that can't are like Stephanie Brown, Jason Todd, let's see, Jason Todd, freaking, I don't think Damien can. I think it's easier to say who can. I think the only ones I would consider that could be able to lift it would probably be Batman. I think you could argue that there are some things that would probably make him unworthy, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to say Batman. I think Dick Grayson would be worthy, and I think Barbara Gordon would be worthy. Everybody else, I think, has questionable characters. Some people would say, oh, Tim Drake. Tim Drake, and I guess you could say this about Nightwing too, but I think it was just poorly written. I think Nightwing was supposed to be in the neutral party in Gotham War, but he kind of came off as going against Batman. Tim Drake, depending on what you've read, has done some shady stuff. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Tim Drake come from a different future to try to kill Jonathan Kent in a story? I think that's when he became the savior. So I don't know if he'd be worthy. because Tim Drake has done some different stuff. I guess you could say the same thing about Batman. Depending on what stories you want to include or not, you could say which ones are not worthy. If I had to pick, I would say Batman, Barbara Gordon, and Nightwing are the only two people, or the only three people that I think would be worthy, in my opinion. Over the majority of their history is what I would include. Moving on from there, Nathan says, what Elseworld idea sounds the most interesting? Alfred decides to become Batman after Bruce's parents are killed. Batman marries Talia, with her becoming an anti-hero Batwoman. Batman has to find what the fuck to do with his time after he rehabilitated / jailed most of his rogues. Batman dies, saving Jason Todd from the Joker instead. I don't like the Alfred becoming Batman after his parents are killed, because that just makes Bruce even more of an orphan. I always like that Alfred he is Bruce's father, essentially, after his parents died. So I like that. Batman marrying Talia and her becoming Batwoman, I would read that. I think that sounds interesting, if she wants to join the fight. And she could also be around Damian. They could be a family of crime fighters. I think that's kind of cool. Batman, I think Batman, obviously, I feel like if you're a good enough writer, you can make any story happen for a long time. But I think Batman finding out what to do after he rehabilitates most of his rogues, that's like a short story. So I don't know if that would be great. And Batman dies saving Jason Todd from the Joker instead. I feel like that's been done. Somebody could correct me in the comments if that has or not. But I want to say there's a story like that. If not, I'm shocked that it hasn't been written. But for the most part, I'd probably, if I was going to pick out of any of these, I'd probably pick the Batman marries Talia and she becomes the anti-hero Batwoman. I think that sounds the most intriguing. Moving on to Moncray, who says, how would Batman handle antagonists that do bad things for the greater good, like Itachi, Megamind, or Killmonger? Does he try to work with them to achieve their goals, or want to send them to Arkham for their crimes? I think depending on how bad the crime is, I think Batman sends them to Arkham. And then he will work with them from Arkham somehow, or Blackgate or whatever. And I think that's how he helps. You know, it's basically, if you're literally doing the Black Panther movie, you saw what Killmonger was trying to do, but he did it in the most evil way. I think you can literally replace Batman with T'Challa at the end of that movie, where he's going to the inner city to like donate money or help out people. If I'm not mistaken, that's how the end of that movie ends. Although everybody just talks about the horrible CGI fight. So yeah, I think it would be kind of similar. I think he would make everybody pay for their crimes. Except for Megamind, I'm not going to lie. I cannot sit here and say I remember what happens at the end of Megamind and why he was doing what he did. So I don't know about that one. Because Batman does have a soft spot for people. If he knows that, like, you're not going to be a danger to society afterwards, like, after he defeats you, he kind of lets you go. That has kind of happened in a few stories recently, if I'm not mistaken. Well, at least in Batman and Robin, which I'm going to quickly talk about later today, that happens. So, yeah, Batman will kind of just let you go. And Itachi still killed a lot of people. I think Batman would have him go to jail. He'd send him to Blackgate, but he'd probably, I don't know, or maybe send him to the Suicide Squad or something like that. But I do think Batman wouldn't let anybody just go if they have killed a lot of people. But I think he would work with them so that they wouldn't do it again, and that they could maybe in the future be released into society. I don't know. But Batman's main goal at the end of the day is just to make sure innocent people don't die. That is always his end goal, is he doesn't want extra bodies, so that don't need to be there. So, you know, and he's cool with rehabilitating people. So I think that's kind of how it would go down. As for Alexis Barrera, which is the final comment we have here, says, what female version of a character would you rather be with? Bane, Croc, Mr. Freeze, Ventriloquist, or Penguin? So I saw this right before I started recording today. And my main question is, are we getting like hot versions of these characters, because I think that really changes the dynamic. But if we are getting just like, no, it is basically like if Bane is super big, hunked out on Venom, he's just a female. If it's Croc, just a female version. So basically, imagine all these characters if they had some boobs and stuff. You know what I mean? And then it gets kind of like, then you're just like, yo. Because here's the thing. We have a female version of Bane and a female version of Mr. Freeze. It's his wife, who was kind of hot, and Bane's daughter. And I'm not going to lie to you, muscular chicks can be kind of hot. I'm just saying. If you haven't seen Lean Beef Patty, a very attractive woman, and can also break you in half. So yeah, I don't know. I think freaking there are versions of those two characters already. Croc, I think that would just scare me. I am somebody that's like, I think cats are okay, but I really hate when cats claw me. You know what I mean? And Croc could bite you in half. You don't want to be getting intimate and then like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, why would you want to put yourself in that situation? So that's gonna be a no-go. Ventriloquist, I feel like. So here's the thing: who's the female version? Is it Scarface or the voice actor? Like, the ventriloquist. I forget what his name is. It Arnie? I forget what the ventriloquist's actual name is. Arthur, maybe? No, I don't know. Anyways, so that would be the question there. I feel like that's just either way, even if you gender bend both, that's a kinky situation. So, if you're into it. And then Penguin. Penguin has a daughter. So if we are just swapping bodies, and it's just like a female version of Penguin, the current Penguin we got, you kind of already see that with his daughter. Same kind of nose, same kind of face, same kind of build and everything like that. So out of all of these, if I had to go, man, I'm going probably Mr. Freeze or Bane. Like, honestly, because we have female versions of those. If I had to pick, probably go Freeze. So, yeah, it'd be really cold. I had to keep my socks on, all that kind of jazz, a little chilly. I'm going to wear a winter coat. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. I'm going with probably Mr. Freeze there. But that is all we got for viewer questions. And now we're moving on to comics. Okay, so I'm going to be real with y'all. I will say we had that comment earlier that said, do you miss Fanboy Clay? I will say the one thing that I do miss is the option to be able to not talk about certain comics because I know Clay read them. But I'm going to be real with y'all. This has been kind of my new thing. I've just been picking the best 3 or 4 comics out of the week and kind of reviewing those and kind of just letting everybody know what other comics came out this week. I'm doing the same thing this week. The reason is, if we were to normally do what we normally do, where we try to cover everything, we'd have 9 comics or something like that. We have Danger Street number 12. We have Outsiders number 2. We have Titans Beast World number 2. We have Titans Beast World Tour Gotham number 1. We have World's Finest Teen Titans number 6. Then we have Batman Justice Buster number 6. Then we have Batman Santa Claus Silent Night number 2. Then we have DC 'Twas the Might Before Christmas number 1. Then we have Batman Gargoyle number 2. Batman 428 Robin Lives, which if you don't know what that is the alternate version of Jason Todd dying. Because that was for those of you that don't know, a comic that was voted on. It was voted that Jason Todd died back in the day. And so now they're releasing the actual version where he lives. So if you want to go pick that up, go pick it up. Then that's already 10 comics. Then we'd have Batman City of Madness number 2, Batman and Robin number 4, Detective Comics 1017. And that is just the books that we would have covered here on Batman News Weekly. That is 13 books. That is a podcast by itself. So I'm going to pick the 10 best or not the 10 best, fuck that. I am going to pick the top 3 to 4 comics, and it's basically 3 because I'm barely going to talk about Batman and Robin out of what I've read. So I'm not going to be covering Danger Street number 12. Reason being, I didn't read it, but also I've said this multiple times. I just want to read Danger Street in one sitting at this point because there was so much going on in that book. I want to be able to buy it in hardcover and just kind of read it on my own. And I believe we have covered everything, but again, since I didn't read it, I'm not going to be able to talk about it. Also, don't kind of want to spoil the ending for myself. I want to sit down and read it and kind of go through all of it and be like, oh damn, that was actually really good, or maybe it wasn't so good. I don't really know. Also, not going to be talking about Batman Gargoyles, which sucks because that is I really enjoyed that book. Maybe we'll cover it next week or something like that, depending on what books come out. And this could be for any of these books in the future. But let's just go ahead and dive into. Also, Beast World does not look interesting. That event looks boring as hell, where everybody's becoming, like a beast, and I just don't care. We talked about that when it got announced. Like, that seemed like it was going to be a dumb event, and it kind of seems that way. Like, freaking everybody's turning into random animals. Yeah, I don't care about it. It seems like one of the most boring events. I personally wouldn't waste my money on it. And so, yeah. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is actually Batman and Robin, because this is something I didn't read, but I skimmed through it, and I had already guessed what was going to happen in this book. So, and this is also one of the situations where I told you that Batman kind of just lets a person go away. So we get the flashback that Damian, while he was training, had a female instructor, and after he was done with her, I guess he outbeat her in her skills. She was banished, and she tried to go after Damian, and they kind of took her away, and you would assume she was dead. Well, I got this from issue 1 when he went to school, because I think he went to school in issue 1. His teacher or headmaster or whatever in issue 1 that come and stops the fight or whatever is there, I was like, that's the villain. And I don't know if I called that out in the podcast when we did review issue 1. If I didn't do that, I definitely thought it. But that's in my brain. I was just like, oh yeah, one of these teachers is the villain. They're Hush for sure, or Shush as they should say. This story goes on. Remember, there was the last issue. There was a big bat. That wasn't Man-Bat and whatever. Batman shows up with the White Rabbit. They start fighting. And then this bat flies away with Shush. And, they kind of Batman. I'm glad I didn't read this, because I'm looking at the dialogue right now, and Robin says, Robin is okay. I have spent enough time with bats. I need to show that I do not fear them. They just need a moment to be reminded who's boss. And Batman is spreading his wings and has all these bats around him. And then freaking White Rabbit's like, whoa. There's a reason why I didn't read this book or cared to read it, ladies and gentlemen, because the dialogue has been so fucking bad. So anyways, going on, we have the scientist that is reviewing all the other animals that are the what are they called? The deadly trio or whatever. I always forget their names. It's the animal trio. But anyways, they're being treated or whatever because they're actually animals now or whatever. And then there's this moment where the White Rabbit's like, we're the dynamic trio now, right? And he's like, I appreciate your help, but once we're done here, you're going back to Blackgate. And she's like, if you have to catch me. And then she runs away. And, he says, let's see. Once you give up your obsession, you'll be able to live your life or whatever, I think is what he says. We appreciate your help. Once you serve your time and stop obsessing about Alice in Wonderland and crime, you can start over with a new life, White Rabbit. But until then, you're going to Blackgate. So it was one of those situations where Batman is totally cool with what you've done if you've served your time kind of situation. And obviously, she dives off a thing, and she's like, if you can catch me. And they're like, oh, yeah, why don't we go try to catch her? And that's kind of how, not the book ends, because we go to the next morning where Bruce is dropping off Damian at school, and we see his headmaster or whatever, and it's the lady from the first book. And Damian's like, oh, I have a reason to go to school now because I think my principal is Shush. And yeah, so he's like, my old instructor and new principal is Shush. So that's the book. Damian knows already that this is why he's going to be going to school, because his old... who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? That's all I got to say. Shush was just a made-up character that is boring. Why would she bring up that persona? I don't know. It's just a really boring concept, boring book. I don't care. This doesn't fit with what's happening in Detective. It doesn't fit what's happening with Batman, in Batman. I don't know why we're getting this Batman and Robin book. It's boring. It's Joshua Williamson, very hit or miss. I think he misses more than he hits, in my opinion. And I think Batman and Robin is just not a great book. So that's kind of what happened. It was nothing to watch, in my opinion. Moving on to that, let's talk about a Justice Buster. Because Justice Buster, oh man, turn the dial up to 11 because we got introduced to freaking Deathstroke, ladies and gentlemen. You talking about Deathstroke in an anime, like, only gonna be awesome, right? But before we got to Deathstroke, we got a flashback, which is very manga, very anime, is when you introduce a character or you've seen a character for a while and you want to learn more about them, they show you their tragic origin story. And we found out the tragic origin story of Danny, which is the little boy that's been in this story. And Danny just so happened to have the same origin as one Dick Grayson, where his parents fell to their death and he was a performer. And we found out that his uncle was a clown. And that's kind of where we see. I'm already calling it. I think the clown was probably the reason his parents died, but we'll see what happens in the future. And Danny starts, for some reason, he pulls out this book called The Detective, and maybe he's trying to learn to be a detective, get those skills up. He is very curious about Batman. We've seen that before. And then we come across this panels of Batman beating up Riddler, but he won't call him Riddler. He keeps calling him Enigma. And he's like, it's Riddler. Call me Riddler. And then we see Joker there along his side. And he's like, oh, we should just take him in or whatever. And then somebody tries to shoot Batman. Batman covers himself with the cape. Of course, it gets blocked. And that is Deathstroke. He looks so badass. Just like, I don't know. He just looks great. I mean, that's all I can say. Go read this book if you're not reading it. And so Deathstroke is there, and he super anime, jumping off things, going straight to attack Batman. He's fighting Batman. Batman blocks. It's just like a good little fight. Joker tries to shoot him, and Deathstroke just with his ninja sword just blocks all the things, and they're like, "No way! You gotta be kidding me!" Very, very anime, which I think is great. And then Deathstroke gets Nigma, and he just disappears. With a flashbang, and they're like, that was crazy. And then, of course, the Robin system is telling Batman, they're like, you have a malfunction in your helmet, you need to return back to base or whatever. Then we see that the kid, Danny, is going to look for a private detective, and it is the Ace Detective Office, and we see who we can only assume is the Joker, the man behind the mask, shows up, and he's like, hi, you're looking for me, huh? And he's like, you're a private detective. And he's like, yeah. He's like, from the looks of it, you've probably been denied by every other private detective around here, but I'm willing to listen to your story. And so the kid starts telling him his story or whatever, and he's like, but what's your name? And he's like, it's Danny. He's like, no. What's your real name? And that's when we get revealed the kid's name is Dick Grayson. And after that, we see Batman in the cave. He's, finding out who the person behind the mask was with Deathstroke, and it's revealed that it's Slade Joseph Wilson, aka Deathstroke, and he's a hired mercenary, all this kind of jazz. And what ends up happening is, Batman's like, all right, I'm gonna need to go find Enigma, and he's talking to Lucius, which is cool. I don't know if this is the first time we've seen Lucius in this book. We actually don't see him here. He's talking to him, but we get the moment that, and this is a Family Guy joke. He's like, he said it. We get the moment on why this book is called Batman Justice Buster. And for whatever reason, Batman's he's talking about the Bat boat. This is supposed to be a boat, but, and this is what Lucius is like, I'm assuming you're talking about the Bat boat. He's like, yeah. He's like, we're not going to call that anymore, though. It's going to be the Justice Buster. So yeah, this huge machine thing that was named the Bat Boat, or is it Bat Boat or Bat Bot? Let me actually find that out. It might be Bat Bot. Nope, it's Bat Boat. Definitely Bat Boat. So, yeah, the Bat Boat. I don't know why, if it's only going to be on water or what the case is going to be, but it is now going to be called the Justice Buster. and that was revealed. And that, again, that's all the story it is. So we got the origin of Dick Grayson. We found out or obviously we all know who Deathstroke is already, but Deathstroke showed up, and we find out why the book is called Justice Buster, and it's going to be revolving around some big machine that's going to be happening. So pretty cool. Like I said, I've been enjoying these manga stories that they've been dropping. Pretty awesome. And yeah, we're gonna continue with oh man, the only other 2 books. Actually, I read 3 more books. Okay, so I actually didn't know I read so many. So quickly, Batman Silent Night, we covered this one. I wanted to continue covering it again. This is the Christmas story. This book is dropping every week of December, and it is Batman and Santa Claus Silent Night. And we found out in this book why Krampus is going after people and why he's fighting Santa. And basically the whole story is, and the way they tell the origin of this is really cool. Batman left a toy box behind for Batman, and the box reveals the memories of Santa Claus. And he's able to, instead of like having to tell the story, they're just in the memory, which I think is really cool storytelling aspect, because there's these kids chasing after this little girl that's saving a pig. And Robin and everybody tries to kick the kids because they're like, leave her alone. And they're just they're phantom images because it's a memory. And I think that's really cool. And we see that Krampus was like basically a character that fed off of fear, essentially. But so he loved capturing kids and be like, I'm gonna eat you for doing bad. And what Santa and Krampus were doing in this origin was they would scare kids and people into being a better society. So they were using fear, a la kind of like Batman, to try to make society better. And they were doing that over time. So Krampus would play the bad cop, and Santa would be the good cop or whatever. So he rewarded the little girl with a toy and all that kind of jazz. And he would tell the other, I think they called it bad cop, worse cop instead of good cop, bad cop. And so Krampus would play like, I'm this monster that's going to eat you. And they would just trick society. And it showed over time, they built up this society of like better people. And eventually there was one moment where everybody kind of started just laughing at Krampus over the time, because they knew nobody died. Like, nobody was dying. He wasn't eating anybody, so nobody was really fearful of him. So eventually, people are laughing at him, and he got one kid and ran away with him. And Santa Claus was like, yo, what's going on? And it looked like he ate the kid. He was all like, yes, I ate him. No more, bad child. And Santa has this ability to send people far away or to like another dimension. And he was so mad that Krampus killed somebody that he sent him to this other realm. Then it's revealed that the kid was just hiding with a bunch of snacks that Krampus gave him. So Santa was like, I fucked up! And he tried to go find Krampus in this other realm, but could never, ever find him. And so now, this is the first time he's seen him since he banished him. And so now, Krampus is like trying to get back to like, he's trying to not necessarily get back at Santa, it seems like. He's just trying to like get back to a normal area, but he's being manipulated by these voices, by these other bats and stuff like that. So that's at least the way I kind of reveal it. It doesn't seem like Krampus is a super evil character at the moment, but he's being manipulated to be an evil character. And maybe try to get revenge, you know what I mean? We do get to see a lot of the other Justice League with like Black Canary, Green Arrow fighting these, these bat-type creatures. And then Krampus is going to get other creatures that are like stronger than bats and stuff like that. So he is definitely being manipulated by somebody. We don't know who that is yet. Maybe it could just be his inner monologue. I don't really know. But he is being manipulated because somebody is talking to him. And he's about to get a bunch of angels, it looks like. It's like a lot of these women that are in warrior suits that have angel wings. And that's what's going to be happening pretty soon. The last final panel is amazing, though, because you see this red streak, obviously Superman, crushes down to the ground. And after, like I said, Krampus is like getting other villains to fight Batman. So Superman crashes down like with just the fury of the gods. And he has red eyes, and he's like, "You never said that you knew." And then he's like got his big blue eyes. He's like, "Santa." So like he's so upset that Batman knows Santa and that he doesn't. So I think it's just funny. It is the Boy Scout. It's very innocent Clark Kent. He's like, "How do you know Santa and I don't know Santa?" And I think it's just a good, interesting book. You know, it's got drama and action in it, but at the same time, it's like it's got a Christmassy vibe, which I really enjoy. So that is the second book of Silent Night. If you guys want to go pick that up. Now, the other two books are Dawn of DC. Well, that's the new event that's going on. But I also read Outsiders because I want to give some love to the book Outsiders that is with Batwing and Batwoman. We started covering this, and it is written by Jackson Langsing. He has two last names, and Colin Kelly. So, which also seems like, well, Kelly seems like a first name, honestly. But anyways, those guys. And we've been loving their writing. They've been writing Batman Neo Gotham. And obviously they did the Clayface One Bad Day story, which was amazing. So I want to give some praise to this book because I really enjoy these writers. And it's also giving spotlight to Batwoman and Batwing, two characters that don't get enough spotlight, in my opinion. And we know that the Outsiders is now investigating just things that do not have answers in the world. And, you know, Batwoman's like, "I want to go investigate this storm that's been raging for decades." And she said she experienced it when she first joined up in the military, and she was all for it. And I believe, but it's weird because she also saw this thing as a kid. So I don't, or at least that's the vibe I get. But she went in to try to search for this storm that never ended. And everybody was like, "Nah, we shouldn't do that." She's like, "This is why we came here." And, you know, she's kind of fighting with Drummer, which is the other person in the squad that isn't obviously Batwing. And he's like, "All right, let's go for it." He's like, "I want to find out answers that, I want to find places that don't have answers or whatever, right?" And so they go to this area, and it's like this storm that's been raging. There's lightning. It's like crazy. And we find the Challengers of the Unknown. Now, if I'm not mistaken, these are old characters. They're not, I don't think they're just created to see Challengers of the Unknown. I'm pretty sure these are old characters. Yeah, definitely old characters. Believe back in the day they were all men. In here, it looks like we got a mixture. Well, also, I believe the way the story was told, if I remember it correctly, there have been Challengers of the Unknown over time. So this might just be the new iteration of the Challengers. And so they're like talking about how they've beaten so many monsters and stuff like that. Well, anyways, the Challengers live in this storm to overlook Atlantis, or like to overlook this, you know, area. And they're like, "You guys, we showed you the tour," and they like take them on board, and they're like, "Yeah, these are all the people I've killed and all this kind of stuff." And they're like, "Yeah, we're the best," and yada yada. And they give them this tour of the thing, and they're like, "Yeah, but now we're gonna ask you to leave. We don't need you here, and we gotta have to, you know, revoke your access to this area." And they're just like, "Nope." And they like go down into the sea, and the Challengers of the Unknown have these like big mech suits, and they go down into the water, and they're like, "Look, we're trying to be nice. We will leave you at the bottom of the sea to die if you don't listen." And so they like start shooting the bat boat is all I can really call it. Obviously, they're not trying to use the bat symbols for stuff, but it's a fucking bat boat. And so, you know, there's just this fighting that's going on. Batwing is like, "Yo, I have a suit for you, Kate, if you want to go try it out and go out into the ocean." And so Kate jumps into the ocean as they're falling to, because they've been hit, the boat's been hit, and it's like sinking down to the bottom. And they find that they're in a graveyard of just massive dead sea creatures. And I'm talking about like, not like whales and stuff. I'm talking about like krakens, it seems like. And so they're like, "Oh crap, what is this?" And the Challengers of the Unknown, what I got from this story was that Aquaman loves hunting these creatures and killing them, and the Challengers of the Unknown are hiding the secret and that is why they have a pact with Atlantis, because apparently this is Atlantean waters. And so they're like, yeah, we're following orders or whatever. And what ends up happening is, oh my God, I was going to say Wonder Woman. Batwoman finds a trident, and this trident is, I'm assuming, causes a connection with the only remaining like Kraken that's down there. And it's the same kind of Kraken that she saw when she first showed up on the well, see, here, this is what I don't understand. Because it looks like she looks really young in this thing. Like, she saw it when she was a kid. But there's also, like, a dead kid and a dead, like, person. So, I don't know. Oh, I think earlier in the story, hold on, let me check. I gotta verify this because it is starting to confuse me. I think earlier in the story, she was on a boat and it got destroyed by this Kraken thing. And maybe that's how she washed up on the beach. And I think that's how it is. So she's like one of the only remaining survivors. But she remembers what this thing looked like when it attacked them. And so this thing kind of remembers her as well. And so she essentially is able to talk down the challengers because they're like, oh yeah, we've killed things like this before. We'll kill this one. And she talks about, she's like, why do you think it's here? She's like, in a pile of boneyards. Like, it's not a runt, it's a child. Like, this is a child of all these things that have been killed. And so the challengers kind of have like, they're like, yeah, you know what, let's not do any murdering today or whatever. Kind of, you know, she backs them down. And this last Kraken is not killed. And it's just going to be able to be down there and be on its own. And yeah, I don't know. When I haven't been reading Aquaman, but has Aquaman always been a killer? Like, does he go around killing sea creatures like Krakens and stuff like that? Because there was a lot of dead bodies there, and there is a moment in here that says, I'd have to find it, but basically says that, you know, Aquaman likes to kill these types of creatures. So I don't know what's going on. It says that everyone loved. Okay, let's see. Imagine that the boneyard was your home, that these bodies were all of your family that was left, that everyone you love had been killed by the fucking Aquaman. Granted, obviously the cuss word's blacked out, but yeah. So Batwoman was trying to talk some sense into the challengers and how this, this kid, Kraken, is just down there with the remains of their family members. So, thought it was kind of cool. Different story. Art was amazing. Storytelling was good. And also, makes me question Aquaman. I don't know what's going on with Aquaman. I don't know what the story's going on there. But I thought it was pretty interesting. So, yeah, that was a pretty cool story. And moving on from The Outsiders, which, by the way, I think I want to keep continuing that series. I think it's cool. If I was buying loose leaf books still, I'd probably pick this up, most likely, because I do enjoy it. But yeah, if you guys are somebody that goes out and buy floppies, I would suggest picking up The Outsiders. Pretty interesting book so far. But moving on to the final book, ladies and gentlemen, and that is Detective 1079. If you have not been keeping up, there has been a heist that has been going on. They are trying to save Batman from being hung at the gallows. Again, this is a story book that we dropped a long time ago. We just picked it up again because Ram V included Catwoman, and he writes Catwoman very well. And the last story in 1078, Batman was hanging. He was hung by his neck, and it looked like he was dead. So, and this book starts off talking about that. It shows Batman hanging. It shows everybody losing, like all of the Catwoman's crew. Everybody is just in a bad situation, and it looks like they're all gonna die or be defeated. Until Catwoman, and there's been this analogy the whole time about placing bets and like calling bluffs and, you know, dealing a better hand and all that kind of jazz. Like this big poker analogy has been going on. So a majority of this book, Catwoman's team is getting their ass beat. They're losing, and they're kind of like, why are we still doing this? You know, Catwoman, you know, she'll come through, yada, yada. And we see that Catwoman is on her knees. Like, she's about to be shot and killed. And everybody's like, did you really think that you could beat us? and she was like, did you think you can beat us, Selena Kyle? And she was like, the name's Iko. I'm not Selena Kyle. And that's when Iko like throws some smoke bombs and like gets out of the area that she was about to die in. And then we get a flashback of the actual plan playing out. And Selena talks about, you remember what I said about the perfect bluff? The perfect bluff doesn't sell the lie. It sells the opponent. It sells the opponent the promise of their victory. So I thought this was really cool and like a really nice storytelling beat that Selena wanted all of these people to think that they had won, that they beat them in every situation. But in reality, she planned out every bit of this heist. And so she talks about how Azrael was a decoy. You know, it was just a big chaos, fight that was going to distract people. We also had, Freeze was also a distraction with Orphan or Batgirl to try to go after the reality engine or whatever the hell that is. Again, a story beat I don't know because we dropped this book a long time ago. And just causing all this chaos and having decoys so they don't know where Catwoman really is. Well, we talked about it a while back, and Catwoman did visit Batman to talk about it. Like, again, there was like one page that was better than anything Teenie Howard had ever read, or wrote, I should say. I don't know, she's probably read some good stuff. But, yeah, she actually she poisoned Batman with the whatever was on her lips. And then she injected him after, whatever this poison was, or she also might have injected him, I think, too. Basically, she gave him, no. The kiss was the poison, and then when she saves him, she injects him with this other stuff. Because whatever this poison did, Ivy was involved, it would, like, stiffen Batman's neck or something like that to where, like, his neck wouldn't snap. Like, I don't know, comic booky stuff, you know? And, that's what keeps him from actually snapping, like from dying while doing. And it also like made him seem like he was dead. Like it slowed all his heart rate and everything like that. You know, the classic "you're dead but you're not dead" ploy in comics. That's kind of what they pulled off here. And so she's actually one of the guards that was walking the body back to the tunnel. She's walking all the people back to the tunnel, and of course it's Catwoman. She could beat up a bunch of guards in a small space, so she does that. That's when she injects Batman, and apparently this will bring him back to life after a while, or keep him down a little bit longer while they get him out. And then we know Grundy was a part of the team. Grundy, as they said, knows the sewers better than anybody, so he breaks through all of the walls and meets them where they need to be, and they walk Batman to this rendezvous point to where Gordon is waiting with the van to get him out. And, of course, Freeze betrays Batgirl. She's able to call for it. But all the other people are still fighting. Like, they're still in their ways. Like, we have Question fighting, Azrael's fighting, Iko's fighting all these people, and it looks like there's going to be a big fight to continue. But Selena's like, you need to get him out of Gotham because people are going to be coming for him, and get him to the docks. Like, I can't go with him, but somebody will be there for you. And when you turn the page, it's Talia. So Talia is waiting there to help Batman. And the final page also has Two-Face flipping a coin. Two-Face was a bigger player in this book a while back, so I don't know how that is going to play a part in this book. But so far, I think it's been pretty interesting. I love the heist aspect. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to read going forward. But I do think the Detective Comics suffered from all of the gothic like language and just didn't know who the hell these characters were. And I don't know. The heist, that arc has been really good so far. I really enjoy it. Maybe I'll try to go back and read it in the future, but when it's collected in like, a deluxe edition or something like that. But right now, I don't know. I don't really care back to go to see what the whole story was and what they're trying to do and yada yada, because I don't care. Because I know it involves like Barbatos and all this other crap. And I don't know. The supernatural part of Batman is not ever really been my favorite, even DC in general. But it is kind of if anything's well written, I'll read it. But yeah, that's kind of how it's been. I think Detective is getting better right now. We'll see where it goes though. Talia is going to be involved. That might be really cool. But Talia was also in the first book, and I didn't care either. Maybe I just love when Ram V writes Catwoman because he writes her so well. We'll see. I'll give the next book a shot. But that is it for comics, ladies and gentlemen. Again, there was 13 books we could have covered on this week. Obviously, not going to cover all 13. If you want to finish Danger Street, that is out. Go check that out. If you want to finish Gargoyles or continue Gargoyles, because I believe there's going to be a third book, or if you want to continue City of Madness, those are also books that have come out as well. So a lot of things. And then, of course, if you want to read the DC Beast event that I don't really care for. And then, of course, Teen Titans is also... the last time we read Teen Titans, I think we weren't a fan of it, or maybe I wasn't a fan of it, because it was just kind of like getting kind of silly. But I also think it was when Robin revealed his identity. So maybe this week's book was good. I haven't got to read it. But that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Again, if you haven't checked out the new channel and you guys want some more content that isn't comic book related, go check out my new channel. You can type in Juice from the Box. Should be the first channel that pops up. If not, it is on this page now on the Batman News Weekly page for YouTube. So go check that out. You just click on the icon and check out the page. But that is going to be it. As always, I'm host... I can't even do the outro. I am your host, Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.